How are you, Chris?
Fine, thank you.
Well, I would like to know, I read that this is the Dunkirk event is something that resonated with you for many years, and I wanted you to elaborate on that, why it stuck with you, and why did you want to make a movie out of it?
Well, I mean, like most British people, Dunkirk is a story I've grown up with. I don't even remember the first time I was told about the events at Dunkirk. It's very much a part of British culture. We talk about the Dunkirk spirit. And about 20 years ago, I made a trip across the Channel with Emma and a friend of ours who owned a small boat. We took the boat over to Dunkirk, and it was a very, very difficult crossing. The Channel was very rough. It was freezing. It was very, very difficult, and it took much longer than it should have. It took us about 19 hours. And so I came away from that experience with a greatly increased fascination with people who really did that while they knew they were going into a war zone. Just the heroism and the unlikely quality of that event seemed sort of overwhelming to me. And it's something that I think planted the seeds of wanting to tell this story in a modern film, because it's one of the great stories in human history, and yet it hasn't been told as a modern day film.
Mm-hmm. You started in this business as an indie director, so to speak. Was it your goal back then to end up making movies of this scope, or you never expected that?
Well, I think, like all people, I grew up first appreciating movies because of the big Hollywood films. And then later you grow an appreciation for independent cinema and smaller films. But I think in the back of my mind, there's always been this feeling that the big blockbuster at its best, you know, something like 2001 or Lawrence of Arabia, one of these great films, that for me is the best that movies can be. That's the most full and exciting movie experiences, when you have a large-scale blockbuster that really makes you think and really works on some level. And so I think for me, as a filmmaker, to some degree, that's always been my aspiration, to try and work on that scale if I had the opportunity, and I've been given the opportunity, so that's the arena I've been working in.
But is there any type of compromise when you get to that level, as opposed to when you're doing your own indie film, or you haven't felt that throughout your career?
Well, all filmmaking is intelligent compromise. All filmmaking is the conflict between the artistic aspiration and the practical reality. But as far as creatively, no. I mean, I think that when you set out to make a film, you try and make the film that you would want to see of that event. And so in the case of Dunkirk, for example, there's a scale and there's a reconstruction of the events and a grandeur that you want to see as a filmmaker. As an audience member, as a filmmaker, that's what you're trying to do.
Since you obviously have a passion for movies, I was wondering if you think that a movie can change a person's life, or you just think movies are movies, period, they're just there to entertain.
I think that if you think about your experience with cinema as a human being, I think that the best films take on a resonant quality. There are images, there are sounds, music from films that they enter our imaginations the way our own memories do. And so I think it's possible for a film to resonate with an individual very strongly. I think it's possible for a film to have a real impact on a person. But I also think it's difficult to plan that or gauge that or analyze that. I think that's a very personal and subjective response that we all have to different movies at different times in our lives.
Yeah, is there one movie you can mention that you think affected you in your life?
For me, there are so many. I mean, so many. As far as wanting to be a filmmaker, wanting to tell these kinds of stories, I think I always point to the first Star Wars, which came out when I was 7 years old and showed me all kinds of possibilities for cinema. Closely followed a year later by a re-release of 2001, Kubrick's masterpiece, which once again really fired the imagination. But the truth is, in my life there have been so many inspirational films and continue to be.
Yeah, cool, awesome. Thank you. Nice meeting you. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.